Welcome everybody out to our SEO presentation tonight. We're going to be talking about what you're seeing on your screen here, which is the periodic table of SEO success factors. Now, this was something, we didn't build this. This is something that's been out there for a little bit. This is something that a site called Search Engine Land put together, which is generally well known as a, as a leader in SEO understanding and how the search engines work. So they put together this periodic table, which I think is pretty accurate. It's very similar to a lot of what we teach here. And the idea behind this, if you remember, your sixth grade science class, you guys know what a periodic table is, right? Or most of you do. It's something you would have studied. Maybe you studied it in college, right? Certainly at some point in your schooling, you probably studied it a little bit. But it's usually the chemical elements, right, laid out in a table, and it's got a particular structure for why it's laid out the way it is. It's similar here. So I'm actually going to share this link with all of you guys so that you can come in and look at this table. I'm going to send it out in chat to those of you who are here live, and then if you're watching this recorded, we'll probably just put it out in the comments section. Did everybody get that? I just sent out the link. Everybody should see that somewhere in the chat window. That way you can go and study this a bit more later. Now this is going to be this will be very high level today. We're not going to go into any detail on really any one of these items. This is just supposed to teach you guys, in a general sense, how to take a website that's been created, whether it be a blog, or maybe it's an e-commerce website, a dropship website, whatever the case may be. This is going to show you in general how to get that website trusted and visible in Google. And not just Google, but Yahoo and Bing and all the other search engines, because they all basically follow the same set of rules. And these are the factors, very high level. Okay, so you'll notice as I scroll down on this table, there's two sets of factors. Do you see that up at the top there, guys? One are the on the page SEO factors, and the other set is the off the page SEO factors. So in other words, there's certain things that you guys can actually do on your website. You physically do on the website you own through editing it and adding content and other things that will impact the way you rank in search engines. On the flip side, there are certain things that you do not on your website that are called off-page factors, and those are the things on the right. Okay. And they're put into these like little subsections, which we'll talk about. Now, just in general, for those of you guys who don't know very much about SEO at all, SEO just simply stands for search engine optimization. So, in other words, it's the process that you take to get a high ranking in Google. For example, let's say you're trying to rank for the keyword phrase fashion jewelry. Okay, I'm doing a Google search right now, fashion jewelry. Let's pretend for a minute I've got a jewelry website and somebody does a search for fashion jewelry. I'd like to see my website show up high here, right? Because traditionally, if you don't show up with high in Google, you're probably not going to get clicked on that much in a search engine. Well, one thing you guys will notice when I did a search for fashion jewelry is this right here. Oh, whoops, let me grab my highlighter, my pen. Can somebody explain to me what that means? Have you noticed that whenever you do a search in Google, you get you get a little statistic like that? So Google is basically saying what? I did a search for fashion jewelry. I'm somebody wanting to buy some jewelry right now. What is that telling me right there? It's the number of pages. Okay, so not the number of websites or not even the number of links. It's simply just the number of pages that are out there in Google that's related to this keyword search right here, okay? It's a big number, isn't it? 11,800,000 pages. Now, let me ask you a question about that 800,000 pages. Are those, what kind of pages are those? Are they all shopping websites? Are they news websites? Are they fashion blogs? Maybe they're Facebook pages that are coming up. Well, we don't really know, right? There's no way for us to find out without sort of clicking through these sites, but I can assure you it's lots of different kinds of sites. Just because you see 11 million, almost 12 million pages that are supposed to show up or that are potentially relevant for this search, it doesn't mean that that's how many competitors are trying to sell fashion jewelry, right? It might be that you know, my wife on her blog mentioned that she went shopping the other day and found some really nice fashion jewelry that she purchased. If she but just mentioned fashion jewelry, that would count here. Or how about this? Maybe there's a news story out there that uses the word fashion somewhere in it and then uses the word jewelry somewhere else in the news story. They're not even put together. But just because both the word fashion and jewelry are used somewhere on the page, that would be included. So it's not like all of this is direct competition. It's just the number of pages that Google thinks is relevant to this keyword search, okay? Well, it underscores the need for you guys to rank on the first page. Now, how many first page links are there here? Well, we can certainly look. For this particular keyword search, let's count them. First of all, I want you guys to look at this really, really quick. These right here are simply just ads, correct? These ads right here are paid ads, so these don't count. Okay, we're not going to count these. I could have your website ranking there tomorrow, right, if we're willing to pay for it. But we're not going to count these. And I guess statistically, it's a very low percentage of clicks actually happen on these, you know, on these first 4 ads right here. I think it's in the neighborhood of like 30% of clicks happen there, even though they're at the top. Most people scroll down a little bit, right? They scroll down to what are called the natural listings, which are right here. These are the ones that count. So count with me real quick. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's it. Because yet again, these right here don't count. Those are ads. These are images. That doesn't count. Okay. Now those are things that can like draw people's attention away, and some people will click on the ads, but really you're just looking at these right here. So there's only, you know, sometimes there's around 10 or so, right? That's usually a pretty good guess. If you say how many listings are on the first page of Google, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10. Okay. So really we got to get our site somewhere here, or a page on our site somewhere here to get clicked on. These guys right here, because they're the #1 organic result, are probably getting the lion's share of the clicks. This page right here, the second listing, gets a lot of clicks. So does the third, so on and so forth. But your #1 listing is going to get the lion's share of the clicks. Okay. Okay, let me erase this. Hey, if you're having trouble with the audio, and Russell, you've mentioned it a couple of times, I actually don't think it's on our end. I think it might be on yours. You'll have to check your internet. And if the audio doesn't sound good, you can always watch this recorded a little bit later on. Okay, so that's the first page. Guys, we need to get our site to rank here, or a page on our site to rank here. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Does anybody shop the second page of Google? If we go to page 2 of 11,800,000 results, do people search there? Or will you get clicks? You will. You'll get a few. So if you're on page 2, you know, especially this one right here, this is Macy's on page 2. This one right here, we'll get some clicks. So will this JCPenney one, right? You'll probably get some clicks on page 2. Page 3, page 4, page 5, probably not. So 1 and 2 you need to be on, and especially 1 if you want to get a lot of clicks, right? Well, the question is then, if you want to end up on the first page of Google, how do you do it, right? What's the strategy? What's the recipe to get your site to show up? Because it seems very incredible that you could get your site here, considering this fact right here, that for this keyword search, there's 11.8 million results, okay? So what's the strategy? Well, that's why we're bringing this up tonight. Very, very high level. This is your recipe right here. There are certain things you do on your site, and there are certain things you do off of your site in order for you to get trust and rankings with Google. Google doesn't just trust everybody. In fact, Google has made a name for themselves and has become a multi-billion-dollar company because they're very good at one key thing, and that's that they can sift out all the garbage. They can figure out what's a good website versus what's a bad website really very quickly, right? So that's why everybody uses them, because I know if I do a search in Google, Google's going to give me a decent site and satisfy my search request. But we can manipulate Google a little bit by following some of these guidelines. So let's look at the on-page factors real quick. And these factors on the document, if you go into if you go and actually look at the PDF file that I linked all of you guys to, there's actually an explanation of all these factors right out here on the left. So you have the content section, okay? And content has, you know, a number of different items here. It's got one called quality, one called research, one called words, fresh, vertical, answers, and thin, okay? And if you look here in the periodic table, that's all of these that are listed here vertically, right? You see these over on the left-hand column? I guess I could take my pen. It's these going down right here, so on and so forth. That's the content category. So what about content, right? Well, let's look through some of the things that the periodic table suggests. Number 1, you'll see here at the very top, and the order does matter, by the way. So what's listed at the top is weighted more heavily than maybe going down. But number 1 is quality. And here's the question that's asked right here: are pages well written and have substantial quality content? We could do our own training on quality content, and we have before. But the general guideline is the content you're creating on your website really that good? If it's a blog and it's supposed to be educational and you're writing articles, is it really good content, or are you just regurgitating other stuff that's already been written? You're not adding a unique touch to what you're writing. Or if you're an e-commerce site, is all of your site mostly just copied content that doesn't really add a lot of value, and other products like that already exist? How quality is your content? That's a big factor in search engine rankings, okay? Second thing, research. Have you researched the keywords people may use to find your content? Those of you guys who have done a lot of SEO training with us know that we talk a lot about keywords, and we have a whole training course on how to make sure you've researched the right ones. That's the second one on the list. You have to have done really good keyword research. The third one right here, words. Do pages use words or phrases you hope they'll be found for? And that's That's basically you taking your keywords that you've researched and putting them in the proper places within your content. Fourth one, our page is fresh and about quote unquote hot topics. There's a factor that Google looks at, and that's what they call the freshness factor. It just means, is your content current? Like, are you writing on a regular basis? Are you talking about things that are trendy and interesting? That actually does factor into your rankings as a whole. The next one is called vertical. Do you have image, local, news, video, or other vertical content? So what does your content actually consist of, and is it diverse? Does it have a lot of different things on it? Answers. Is your content turned into direct answers within search results? So as you're doing your keyword research, do you have a lot of content on your site when somebody does a keyword search for why are gas prices going up? ? Or what's the trendiest fashion jewelry? ? Or what jewelry is trendy for 2016? ? Do you have content that actually answers those types of questions? That often impacts rankings. And then the last one here, thin. This is one that a lot of you guys struggle with. Is content quote unquote thin or shallow and lacking substance? Like, are you writing content, blog posts, blog articles, or product descriptions that are just you're just doing it to do it, and that's it? Or are you actually trying to make it usable and interesting and valuable? We talk a lot about this for you guys who have e-commerce sites, that you're supposed to take your copied product descriptions and rewrite and change them. And there's a good way and there's an excellent way to do it. The good way would be to take the existing product description and just make sure it's all reworded and it's not copied. That's the good way. The exceptional way, or the excellent way to do it, would be to take that content, rewrite it all, but then research other sites on the internet that are selling the same product and take the good things out of their product descriptions and add them to yours and really elevate it to where your product description of that product is the best out there. It's the clearest, it's got the most information, and you can honestly say your content is better than everybody else's. That's the opposite of thin content. And I think if there's one thing I want to highlight tonight, if you're struggling with rankings, ask yourself that question. Is your content really thin, or is it substantial? Does it have some meat to it? So that's the content section of the on-page factors. Okay. Then you've got the architecture section, and then you've got the HTML section. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these in detail. I wanted to touch on the content one in detail tonight. Let me just highlight the other ones. The architecture one. A lot of this stuff, if you're using a good platform, you're probably in pretty good shape. So crawl, for example, can search engines easily crawl pages on your site? Well, if you've submitted an XML sitemap to Google, it probably can. Duplicate, does site manage duplicate content issues well? Mobile, does your site work well for mobile devices and make use of app indexing? So is your site a dynamic site? Is it a mobile site? Most of you who are doing Volusion sites are. If you're using WordPress, you need to make sure you're using a template that's mobile friendly. If it's not, that's going to impact your rankings for sure. URL or speed, does your site load quickly? Speed is actually a factor. If you have a really poor server and your site doesn't load very quickly, that shouldn't be the case on Volusion. It shouldn't be the case on most well-hosted WordPress sites either. But if you've got a slow site, that could hurt your rankings. So on and so forth. URLs or keywords in your URLs, so on and so forth. I don't want to go through all of these. HTML, it talks a little bit about SEO here and what you're doing with your keywords. So that's all of the on-page stuff, okay? If you can give yourself an A or an A+ in those sections, on all of your pages, then you're doing a great job on the on-page factors. Now, most of you guys, because we emphasize it so much, tend to do very well in that area. On page, you do a good job. This is where it gets a little more variable, and that's the off-page stuff. I don't know why that is. Maybe we just need to spend more time training on it, but this part is a struggle for more of you, okay? Because the off-page factors aren't as easily controlled, I don't think. On-page stuff you can do yourself, right? You can do keyword research, you can add keywords to your site, you can make sure your quality content is there, right? You can avoid thin content, you can do H tags, you can do meta tags, right? All of that stuff you can control. The off-page stuff sometimes is a little more of a mystery for you. Let me just explain what some of those off-page factors are, okay? So you'll notice this first one right here. Whoops, let me grab my pen again. This one right here, trust. Now this is the #1 reason why most of you guys don't rank quickly, okay? You build this really great looking website. It's a beautiful looking website. It's got all these keywords and you've done a lot of work on your content. But you know why you're not ranking is because you don't have any trust. Google still doesn't trust your site. How do you gain trust? Well, let's look at what some of those factors are. Let me scroll over to the side so you can get the explanation on these. Okay, so at the top, authority. Do links, shares, and other factors make site a trusted authority? In other words, you have other sites out on the internet that actually link into you and link into your content because you're like a trusted resource, right? You're a jewelry store and you have this great jewelry blog that talks all about how to identify value jewelry. Authority is a big one. Engage is another one. Do visiting. As you look for any other pages on your site other than the one that they came to originally, that counts as on the page that I keep exploring your site. And Google makes the assumption that, you know, the fewer bounces you have, the more people are actually digging in and clicking around in your site, the better your site is. So you want a low bounce rate. You want people engaging in your content, okay? History is an interesting one. This is a tough one for most of you guys, meaning has site or its domain been around a long time operating in the same way? So in other words, how new is your domain name? A newer domain name isn't as trustworthy. So, you know, you can't control that. If you're a brand new site, you know, you just have that going against you. But over time, by and large, ranking should become a little easier because your domain is actually aging, and that's a positive element to your periodic table here. Identity. Does site use means to verify its identity and that of authors? It's not as that's probably not something you want to concern yourself with too much at this point, especially if you're an e-commerce site. Has site been flagged for hosting pirated content? That's probably not an issue. I mean, you guys aren't doing anything illegal on your sites. Ads. This one you might want to look at though. Is your content ad heavy, especially above the fold? Okay. What are we talking about there? For those of you guys who are here live with me and have seen some of my trainings recently, what does it mean to be ad heavy in your content? And what's the term above the fold supposed to mean? Right, if you've ever looked at a newspaper and you know how it's got that fold in the middle of it, all the stuff above the fold is really like your most important stuff. If it's below the fold, it's not. And so if you have ads and too many ads above the fold, you look a little too ad heavy, right? Your focus isn't on your content, your focus is on your ads, and that's Google and other search engines don't like that as much. You know, you can have some ads above the fold, but that shouldn't be all I'm seeing, in other words, right? So that's certainly a trust factor, right? Too many ads throughout your site, exactly. Yeah, Cindy, that's a good way to look at it. I think it means you can't even get to the content because the ads keep getting in the way. How many of you guys have ever been on a site where you get there to read an article and then boom, you get hit with a pop-up? And then finally you get rid of the pop-up, and then you're looking for the article because you can't even find it because it's somewhere hidden amongst all of the ads, right? That's what that's talking about. That's a negative in terms of search engine rankings because people don't like it. Nobody does, right? It's annoying to read a website like that. So that's your trust factors. You have one called links right here. We talk about links as votes, and we've talked about this before. The more links you have that point to your site, the more votes that you've got to rank high. So there's 5 factors here. One is the quality of the link. Is it coming from a respected site? The next one is the text inside the link. Do links pointing at pages use words you hope they'll be found for? So, are you getting any links to your site that actually are the words fashion jewelry and link to you? Or do all of your links just say click here? You want a bunch of your keywords linked to you. The number, do many links point at you at your web pages? You have a lot of votes. You have a lot of other forums and blogs and websites that link to you. Now, I want you to look closely here because some of you guys have fallen into this trap before. There's something called paid links. Have you purchased links in hopes to get to gaining better rankings? Paid links are a huge negative. Now, if you look here on the periodic table, you'll see it in red. Red are negative impact elements here. Okay, so paid links, it has a little -3, meaning it's really, really bad if you've paid for links. And that just means that maybe you've gone to Fiverr.com and you saw for $5 you can actually pay to get 50 links pointing to your site. Guys, that's bad. Don't pay for garbage links. It's not a quick fix. You talk about link building and doing it naturally and doing it well. Some of you guys have gone out and tried to cut corners and paid $5, $10, $15 to get 100 links. That will hurt your website in the long run. You have to be so careful that you don't do that. Okay. Anyway, I'll scroll through the rest because we're running out of time. This is personal. We'll skip through that a little bit. Social. There are social cues that help you rank better. So if your site's getting shared a lot on Facebook or mentioned in different social media, Twitter or Instagram, whatever, that can actually impact your ranking within Google. So social signals, positive social shares, Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus and LinkedIn and all the rest of them. If your site's being shared around social media, that's a positive cue. Okay. So real high level, guys, if you're implementing all of these factors right here, and there's a lot of them, right? That's why we spend so much time in our program training on it, because what's cool about it is while none of this has to cost money necessarily, like you can do a lot of this on your own, the one thing it does cost you is time. It takes time to do all of these things. And many of you I've noticed who have a website will actually come out of the gates like really excited to do it, and you've got this great idea and you have this beautiful site built and you're working on your blog or your e-commerce site, and what I notice is you do it for a little while and you start to burn out, because what happens is you're doing these things here, or at least some of them, and you're not seeing traffic come to your site right away. And so you jump to the conclusion that simply it doesn't work, right? Either what Trevor is teaching me doesn't work, or the program doesn't work. It's just, it doesn't work. And I always think that is akin to somebody joining a gym, right? All you guys who January 1st rolls around and you sign up for your gym membership and you go strong for 2 weeks, and then you take a good look at yourself in the mirror 2 weeks later after working hard, and you don't look any better. And then you hop on the scale and you find out you haven't even lost weight. In fact, you put on 3 pounds, and this is after you've worked tirelessly for 3 weeks to get into better shape, or 2 weeks, whatever it is. And then what do? You quit, because you say, you know what, this isn't worth it. It's not working, right? It's the same thing that happens here and too often, which is why I'm having this training tonight. If it's not working for you yet, either you're not applying everything that's listed here, or you haven't done it for long enough. Google's not just going to rank you just because you want to make money online and you have a pretty good business, right? It takes these factors. So can I just recommend, if you're not seeing a lot of traffic, to evaluate two things, okay? One, how long have you been working at it? Has it really only been a month? If it's only been a month, you might need to work at it for longer. Can you see results in a month? You can. But if you're not, it's probably because you haven't been working on it long enough. And then two, have you really actually done all of these things? Because if you haven't, then you need to get to work. And if you're still not ranking after having done all of this and waiting your time, something is wrong. And that's when you need to have a conversation about it with your coach. But my guess is 99.9% of the time, if you're struggling to get rankings, it's because you haven't done all these things and you haven't done it for long enough, okay? And my clients that are ranking well and are seeing sales off of search engine results, it's because they gave it the time it deserved. Ranking in Google is not a cheap experience, right? There's only 10 spots on the first page. We established that a few minutes ago. You don't just rank there because you want to. You've got a lot of other people that want to do it, but if you know the formula like we're showing you tonight and you're willing to put in the work, then yes, you can achieve those first page rankings. Okay? Okay. Let me just check. Let me just check your comments real quick before we finish up. Yeah, the pop-ups on financial websites are very popular. They drive me crazy. Sometimes they're good in that, like, if they're used sparingly and they're used to get email addresses, maybe they can be effective, but they're always annoying. If it happens too often, it'll drive people away. Good, Kirk. You say you've never paid for a link. Keep it that way. You shouldn't. Funny enough, I used to make and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of dollars off of people paying me to actually put their link on my site. I used to make pretty good money off of it. So people would contact me and say, hey, if you let me put this person's link on your site, I'll pay you $400 this year to do it. And I just started accepting a ton of those. I had tons of paid links on my site, and I was making a ton of money off of it, and then I got penalized later on, and Google changed their algorithm, so I had to be careful with it. So paid links it's just not a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, you want to have your products and your links come from a lot of different websites. Pinterest, if you can have links coming in from Pinterest to your site, that's good. You can pin your products and stuff. Remember, on the periodic table, it says you want links from quality places and you want a high quantity of links. So the more the merrier, yeah. Ads really, Colette, are just a way to monetize your site. You can get links in different ways. Like, what if I've got this really, really well-written article about how to tell the difference between like fake silver and sterling silver, right? It's well written, it's interesting, it has great pictures, maybe a video on it, and there might be people out there on forums or on Reddit or on Facebook or wherever that actually use my site as a resource to answer a question. They're like, hey, somebody posts a question like, hey, I just bought some silver. How do I tell if it's real or not? Because you've got this really great piece of content out there that other people know about. They link to it from that forum or from that Facebook page or from that Reddit post. And the link is counted, and that's something that builds trust with Google. If you're linked a whole bunch, that helps your ranking, right? Yeah, we'll definitely do some training on Pinterest. That's just one I really haven't gotten around to in our Thursday night meetings. I of course, there's a million things I'd like to train on. We just have a finite amount of time to do it. So you can do some for sure, Michelle, but we're planning on doing some training on it. Yeah. I can, Catherine. I know link building is something that we don't cover enough. Where to get the links, how to get them, etc. So yeah, sure. That's on the docket for sure to be covered a bit more. Link building's got it's different now than it used to be. It's a little harder to do, and so yeah, we could certainly spend a bit more time on it. You say, is there a trick to engagement? Yeah, it depends on your site, Cindy. I mean, blog engagement versus engagement on an e-commerce site, they're two different animals, but it's something that we can certainly discuss. Yeah. Probably in the context of our discussion right now, I won't go into too much detail, but it does depend on your site. Okay, well, I think I've showed you enough of the periodic table. You guys all should have the link to this, so study it on your own, talk about it with your coach, evaluate what you're doing and what you're not, and let's build a plan around this so you guys can start ranking a bit better in Google. We'll be talking about more of these factors in detail. So tonight I prefaced this discussion with it was going to be a bit more high level. Well, certainly it has been, right? I haven't covered any of this in detail. We've gone a mile wide and an inch deep. But in subsequent trainings, I would like to take each of these elements, right, and maybe discuss them in a bit more detail. All right? Okay, well, I hope this was helpful tonight. If you're newer and a lot of this flew over your head, that's fine. You'll learn it as you go. We're glad you came anyway. And for those of you guys who've got your sites and are working on SEO, I hope this helped out a little bit, and it's something you can start implementing into what you're doing for marketing. All right? Okay, everybody, have a good rest of the week. I will see you all next time, same place.